Joined for the third, possibly fourth, definitely not fifth year in a row to preview the Baltimore Orioles. Eric Arditti covers Baltimore for Barstool Sports, also hosts the Exit 52 podcast. Eric, welcome back to the show, man.
Thank you for talking about off air. It's become a tradition now. It's funny to see how it's progressed from being like, maybe we'll be okay. This is going to be a fun season. So
We definitely know this is at least your third time previewing Baltimore with me. The first year, I'm sure I spent most of the episode mocking the Orioles. The second year, I was probably like, yeah, you guys had like a surprisingly good season. Like, maybe you'll be okay this year. And now I'm sitting here and you won 101 damn ball games, won the AL East. And I don't know about you. I there were some early spring projections from some sports books and things that had Baltimore at like 88, 89 wins. At the time, this was before the Corbin Burns trade, but even before the Corbin Burns trade, I'm like, how are you getting to 11 or 12 worse game, lower than last year? That just didn't add up in my mind. What were your thoughts on some of those projections?
I mean, the Orioles over under last year was 76.5, and like you said, they won 101. Like they cleared that in early September. Like this is just what happens to the Orioles. And Fanatics, or not Fanatics, Fangraphs has done it. Every Pacoda has done it for years. So it's like in Baltimore, we're like, yeah, that's just what we're used to. Like, they can gladly make a lot of money if you keep doing that. So again, I thought the same kind of thing. Like, are they really going to be that much worse? Like, where are they losing? Where are they losing those 15, 16 games or whatever? Like, sure, if you want to keep it there, that's fine. But again, I mean, that 86, 85 number, whichever you said, I would definitely take the over.
I think I saw 88 or 88 and a half on most of the sports books. Like the Pacoda things and everything like that. Those are always, they obviously take into account so much data and so much variance, and I feel like everyone is just drawn back to the middle of the pack because you've got like clearly the best teams in baseball with Pacoda projections of like 91 and a half, and then you've got clearly the worst teams in baseball with Pacoda projections of like 79 and a half. You're like, this is never how baseball ends up. Someone's gonna win 63 games, someone's gonna win 104 games, but Pacoda never projects that.
Yeah, and it was always like, because again, like 2014 when the Orioles won 96 games, I think they were again projected for like 70, and everyone in Baltimore was like, these guys don't know what they're talking about. But again, it's nothing new to us, and yeah, I the number is definitely low, and again, if people wanted to think that they're not going to be that good, that's fine. Again, it's like we're used to it, so then all they did was add Corbin Burns, and
then and then you got Corbin Burns, and the projections that I saw, the sportsbook went up between 2 and 3 wins. And at the time, the Yankees were projected like 92 and a half to 93, Baltimore at 88 to 89. And then that became, 91 and 92 for both of those teams. And I guess that made a little bit more sense in my mind because at the same time, I know Baltimore won 101 games last year, but this is still a very competitive division. The Red Sox suck, but the other 4 teams are all very competitive. So it's like, yeah, everyone's going to hopefully beat up on Boston, but it's going to be a dogfight, I think, between the other 4 teams. Like there's going to be a lot of back and forth between those. So maybe someone runs away with the division and in the high 90s, but I understand why some projections and sports books don't have that because of the competitiveness of the AL East.
Absolutely. And again, we've seen it forever. It's like, oh, the Rays traded this guy and they DFA'd this guy and then they brought in this guy. Oh, they're still going to win 90 plus games. Like that's just, they're going to roll out of bed with us two and the rest of the Bronx Pinstripes guys and win 88. And that's just how it happens. Toronto's always funky because they've made the sexy moves. Like we've seen them do it with like Jose Reyes and Troy Tulowitzki, and they bring all these weird guys in at times, and it just never seems to work. And we thought they were going to do it this year with Ohtani, and that didn't happen. And but
that's my favorite story of the offseason. The Ohtani private flight to Toronto is the best story of the offseason.
And it was just the Shark Tank guy, which was hilarious.
So funny. It's
fantastic.
So funny.
So good. But it's competitive, and I'm happy to be the team that's. Because again, I think I said it on here. It was always like the team that wins the season series, the Orioles, will win the division. Like, because every other team kind of beats up on each other, and water kind of finds its level there. But whoever pounds the hell out of the Orioles would always win. And now it's Boston. So let's
it's
hope
Boston.
that's going. Thank God.
But
Thank God.
it's Boston now, but also because of the more balanced schedule, fewer games in division anymore. So you can't go 17-2 against one team in your division anymore, which I think the Yankees did one year against Baltimore. So, but still, your point stands that if you can rattle off an 800 record against Boston and just beat up on them, that might be the difference maker between winning the division or winning a wild card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I know I mean I beat this drum. I killed it last year, saying that the Orioles I think would benefit more from the balanced schedule more than any other team in baseball, because again they don't have to play the Yankees and the Blue Jays and the Rays and the Red Sox all those times. So it definitely helped. And again, now I'm like, damn, I do kind of wish we had 2 more series against Boston. That'd be kind of nice. But again,
yeah,
nothing you can do about it.
So Corbin Burns, obviously the big offseason move for Baltimore. They had to get a frontline starting pitcher, whether it was trading for Burns or Dylan Cease, which obviously we know recently just went to the Padres, or signing one of the free agents. I was a little surprised maybe Baltimore wasn't more in on either Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery or anything like that. But you tell me from your perspective, did you ever expect them to be on one of those big free agent starting pitchers?
Not a free agent starting pitcher, because it's tied in with this ownership change. Again, they're right in the middle of it. It's going to be finalized, but again, it's like it's got to be hard to spend money when you're like, well, who's paying? Who's going to pay? You got David Rubenstein coming in, John Angelos on his way out, and it's just like you don't know. It's like you buying a house. And the person selling it's like, well, I think I'm going to put in a driveway, and like, well, we move in tomorrow. It's like, well, can you do it? There's too many moving parts. So that's why I never really thought like a free agent move was going to happen. It was always nice. I do it in the MLB. I do bring in Blake Snell, and I've made those moves before, but I just didn't think it was always going to be a trade. And because again, they had the prospects to do it. So it's like you're overflowing. They have prospects coming out of their ears. They have to do something with these guys. And again, the whole Angel's pocketbook, you really knew what he was going to do with free agency and stuff like that. So I didn't think it was a great idea. I would have loved it, but I didn't think it was going to be Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery or any of those big name free agents. It had to be a guy through a trade.
To use your house analogy, though, isn't like getting a frontline starting pitcher like I just put a new roof on the house, and then the next owner is like, great, I don't have to do that because that's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, you would think. Again, I mean, I don't know. It's the ownership situation here has been so screwed up the last 30 years. So it's a breath of fresh air that it's tough, but. Yeah, it was, again, it's just a weird time, but it's a good weird. I don't know if that's
yeah, I mean, I take it you're happy about the ownership change.
Oh yeah. It's again, I mean, they announced that Rubenstein was going to buy the team, and then 2 hours we traded for Corbin Burns, and everyone's like, oh, this is the best. Like, this is what we've been missing for the last 30 years. But yeah, it's everyone is definitely excited. I said I would, if that was the only move the Orioles made was getting sold, I would grade the offseason an A+. Like, I would have absolutely slapped an A+ on it and been like, call it an offseason, boys. And then, again, they go out and get the 2021 Cy Young winner. So that brought it over the top for us. But yeah, people are excited, and I think the players are also kind of excited because ever since Rubenstein's been in the picture, Anthony Santander and Austin Hayes have both openly come out and been like, we want extensions. We want to be long. Whatever happened under Angelos. Nobody ever mentioned, oh yeah, I really want to stay here. So tides are turning, and I think the players are starting to notice that too. So I think extension season is going to come upon us when he officially takes over and can open up his checkbook, Mr. Rubenstein, who bought the Magna Carta. So I don't have any worries about him not spending money. Everyone's like, how do you know this guy's going to spend money? He bought the Magna Carta for $21 million. If he sees something he wants, he's going to get it. Like, that's just how it works. So
yeah, but that's equivalent to like a number 3 starting pitcher.
$21 million. Like, that's a decent, that could be a Blake Snell
that
year.
doesn't That doesn't even get you Jordan Montgomery for 1 year. that gets you almost
not,
Jordan Montgomery.
But it's that attitude. It's that, oh, what is that? The Magna Carta? Like, yeah, I'm gonna buy it.
Sure.
I just want it. So again, he doesn't have fuck you money. He has Magna Carta money. So that's my big hang up on him.
That's funny. Yeah. But yeah, with the spending, because obviously Corbin Burns is in the last year of his arbitration deal, so he's going to be a free agent in the offseason. And for Baltimore, I mean, the blueprint should be what the Braves have done and extending all of their young talent to long-term deals at below market value when you compare it to what a free agent gets. Like, if I'm you, that's what I'm being like, hey, do whatever the Braves have done.
Oh, yeah. I mean, sign Adley to a 13-year, $10 million deal like the Braves would have done. Long term, decent
whatever
money
brainwashing they've done in Atlanta, it's just like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they got Albies and they got Acuna. They got all these guys. Like, somebody tweeted and they were like, they were making fun of them, not making fun, but they're like, oh, the Braves have restructured Acuna's contract. He's actually paying them money now to play for them. Like, that's just what they would do. But yeah, I mean, that's where it starts. And I think showing these guys like, hey, listen, adding Burns is great. Adding this guy and maybe trading for that guy is awesome. But it starts with the core. Like, it starts with Adley Rutschman. It starts with Gunnar Henderson. It starts with Grayson Rodriguez. It starts with Howell, Cedric Mullins, again, Anthony Santander, Austin Hayes. Like, I can just keep going on and on. But I think this is a perfect situation where, again, you pay your guys. You show that you have confidence in them. You go to Adley and say, you're our Buster Posey. You're our Johnny Bench. You're our guy. We want you here for the long haul. And he's a little older. He's 25, 26. I can't remember which one. But again, I would go to Adley first and just say, here's our deal. Let's start getting this done. I would love for nothing more on opening day morning to wake up with an Adley extension, looming, and we go from there. But he's the first one I would do. But then it's tough. You mentioned Corbin. He's a free agent. He's a Boris guy. Jackson Holliday's a Boris guy. And then Henderson also a Boris guy. Not going to be easy to tie those guys down in season, especially the two young guys. So it's again, I would go after Adley first, and maybe Scott's getting a little soft in his old age, and maybe he'll take a Magna Carta trade off for a long-term deal for one of those two. I don't know, but
well, he's still got two free agents sitting out there, and it's March 14th. Like, his guys don't have anywhere to play. At a certain point, when does some of these players be like, what the fuck, dude? Like, what's going on here? You promised me the world. I'm the reigning Blake Snell is the reigning National League Cy Young winner, two-time Cy Young winner, and he doesn't have a job, and the season starts in 2.5 weeks.
Jordan Montgomery pitched his balls off in October, and again, like, made himself a household pitching name, and everyone's like, nah, we're good, we're all right. Like, I don't know, maybe Scott's lost his fastball. You hate to see it, you really do, but again, maybe.
Did you by any chance?
Maybe he just wants to get on and.
Did you by any chance read that Athletic article from a couple weeks back by Ken Rosenthal about the whole situation with the Boris guys not signing yet? And he didn't like call out. He didn't specifically call out that there's collusion against Scott Boras, but like he kind of alluded to it. And just like how some general managers were speaking about the Scott Boras clients. Now, obviously, collusion is serious charges, and like the Players Association would be all over that, suing the ass, suing the pants off all of the owners if they had any evidence of that. But like, I do scratch my head. I'm like wondering, like, it seems like this happens more like a lot with some of these big name Boras guys, where it bleeds into spring training, and it's just not a given that these guys are going to get what they thought they were going to get going into the offseason.
Yeah, again, the tune around Boris clients, they've kind of changed the last couple of years, because I'm with you. Again, it used to be like, oh, they're going to get $800 billion.
Yeah.
Good for them. Scott Boras, he's the best. I think he's the most powerful man in sports. It's maybe him or LeBron, like 1A, 1B. Like, if they wanted something, it usually happens, and that's not the case anymore. But I do remember, I mean, going back to 2007, the Orioles, when they drafted Matt Wieters, there was like that deal went to the deadline. He almost didn't sign, and he was a Boris guy. And I remember Buck Showalter, like you said, kind of like Rosenthal did, kind of tap danced around it. But at one point was like, I don't ever want to deal with Boris guys ever again. Like, he openly was like, it's very difficult with these guys. And again, so if Buck is kind of code wording it and saying that publicly, I can't imagine what stuff flies at the winter meetings when Boris leaves the bar or something like that. Like some of the GMs, I would love to hear it, but that's gonna be a great book someday. Somebody will write that book.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting because again, it's just I don't know, it's funky with him. So
what was Chris Davis for you guys a Boris guy? Was he? Do you remember if he was a Boris client?
don't
Because like you're talking about how Boris would just get all the money for these players that like you were like, wait, he got that? Because I remember Jacoby Ellsbury got like $150 million from the Yankees. He was a Boris guy, and I think the Red Sox top offer to Ellsbury at the time was like $60 million, and the Yankees tripled it. So it's like, oh, Boris is he's the devil. He's got like some magic wand that he can just wave to get his guys the most money.
So he's not a Boris guy. Chris Davis isn't. But it's funny because, again, Davis kind of did the same thing where it was like he had no other suitors. And the Orioles at one point were like, we pulled our offer from him, blah, blah, blah. And then like 2 weeks later, they added like $30 million. And they're like, here's our offer. Yeah. And he took it. And that's it. So
it's like, what blackmail this? Well, I know Chris Davis not a Boris guy, but like, what blackmail did Boris have on guys where just like come out of a room, be like, no, I got you your money and then some.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I think he at one point is or was the most valuable or most powerful person in sports, and I don't know. Maybe that magic is wearing off. And again, you really just hate to see it happen to a guy like that.
So other than Burns, who's obviously the biggest offseason move for you guys, solidifying the rotation, what else did the Orioles do this offseason?
That's about it. They picked up a couple minor league guys, the guys with options that they can kind of send up, send down to the Norfolk shuttle. That's really all they did. I mean,
Kimbrel, right?
Yeah, that's right. And they did add Kimbrel to replace Felix Bautista and replace Felix Bautista. You don't replace
it's tough.
It's like when Rivera, tore his ACL. You don't replace him. You just kind of cross your fingers every time a new guy comes in and go, oh, let's hope we can get this save. I don't know. But again, I mean, a devastating blow that injury was, and who knows what Kimbrel is going to be. Obviously, Philly fans have had no problem telling me how much they hate him and how bad Craig Kimbrel sucks after what we saw in October. But yeah, it's kind of just going to be a bullpen by committee, but Kimbrel's that guy. And he was the first one, the first guy to sign. And that was really the move. Everyone was like, this can't be the only move. They have to make another move. And again, Kimbrel, Burns, I would have liked to see them get at least another arm for the bullpen and or the rotation. Again, there's still time. Obviously, Cease is out of the picture now, but yeah, we definitely wanted them to do a little more. Getting Burns definitely helps, and that's softens the blow a little bit because again, he's the 2021 Cy Young winner. But I think all of us are still kind of like, I would have liked, another bat. Jorge Soler wouldn't have been bad, and some guys they wanted another batter, but I wanted an arm somewhere. I didn't care where. I wanted another bat or another arm somewhere, but that was pretty much all they did. They kind of stand pat because again, they have all these prospects, so they can make moves if they need to still.
Yeah, I mean, still the number one ranked system, despite trading away some pieces for Burns, Jackson Holiday again for I think the third ranking in a row. Mm-hmm. So that's a year and a half on MLB Pipeline is the top prospect. Are we going to see him this year, or at what point are we going to see him this year? I know we're going to see him this year, but at what point?
I think 2 weeks from today. I think opening day he's running down the orange carpet. I've seen like even before his grand. He's done. I said if Mike Elias really wants to put his balls on the table and be like, this is a year. Again, you got Burns. Don't know what he's going to be next year. You just never know. I think this is the year where he says, all right, we're going all in. We're going to compete. Again, they didn't trade for just win it in the DS again. I think they're going to go for it. And I think they're a much better team with Jackson, on the roster and starting. I think he'll be your everyday second baseman. May see him at shortstop if Gunnar needs a break or something like that. But I think it's March 28th. I think he's running down the orange carpet wearing.
Oh, you're getting ahead of yourself. Running down a carpet in October. You're getting ahead of yourself.
Wearing number 1, starting at second base, batting 8th. Jackson Holiday.
So you think he'd be second base and Gunnar shortstop. I mean, Gunnar split time third and short last year, right? Like pretty even.
little more third. I don't know the breakdown, but yeah, I think we'll have Westberg at third, Jackson Jackson at second, and then Gunnar at short. But again, I mean, Westberg can play any of those. Jackson can theoretically play any of those. So they have three guys who can play all those, the middle infield position plus third. So it's a great problem to have, and they're all three studs.
The amount of prospect depth, but like not just prospect depth, guys that have hit, because it's so hard to do and in such a short period of time, is pretty unprecedented. Like I don't know what other organization in recent years, maybe the Astros probably, of the the mid 2010s when they hit on all their core that since has propelled them to whatever. But to hit on like 4, 5, 6 guys that can play at the major league level, it is pretty unheard of. Like I know that, but like what has been the key to that success? I mean, clearly it's not just drafting, because you can't just draft talent. You also have to have good player development, because if you get drafted in the first round, you're a talented baseball player. It's like the talent is there. Then somewhere along the way, through rookie ball all the way up to AAA, the wheels fall off and player development gets in the way, right? But like that hasn't happened for Baltimore.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Again, there's been articles and they're like, well, or and it's people on Twitter being like, well, of course they're good. They tanked for for this many years. It's like, okay, go talk to the Tigers. They've drafted the top 5, every year since 1933. Like, go look at the Pirates. The Pirates obviously have guys now, but like, go look at some of the top guys they've drafted. Same thing with Oakland. Like, you see these teams that have been bad for so long, and it's like, oh, well, it's easy if you pick at the top of the draft. No, it's not easy. Like you said, you're the best player in your high school. You're probably the best player in your college. You're the best player in your state if you're drafted in the first round. That's that's a fact pretty much. But like you said, it's like what separates them. And the way the Orioles have developed these guys, it's Sig Mejdal and it's Mike Elias. And like you said, Elias built that team and he helped build it in Houston. So he knows what it takes. And going under slot, people shit on Elias for going under slot with Colton Cowser at 5. He's turned into he had a rough year last year, but he's hitting the hell out of the ball spring training this year. Heston Kjerstad, number 2 overall, who again, he's had a rough spring, but he's a 35 home run power guy. Like he could be a very good player. So I don't know. And it's crazy because like you said, we've never seen someone they've hit on draft pick. And obviously there's still time for them to fail. But right now it's like, it seems like none of them are like busts and stuff like that. And again, I've seen Orioles players get drafted high and be busts. Like, so it's not, we're not strangers to that. I don't know. I don't know what to put my finger on or how to describe it. I just don't know, but it seems like everything they touch literally turns to gold and turns into a top prospect. So it's fantastic to watch.
Yeah, and I remember talking to Scott about this, my co-host. It really wasn't like a crazy amount of time that Baltimore was tanking, because 2018 was the last year of Machado, correct?
Yeah.
Or
20, I think it was
2018.
That was the Alex Cobb, to like a decent sized deal. And I mean, they fully went into 2018 being like, we're going to compete. We're going to try and go for this.
Right.
And I think they had the best record in baseball through May. And then they just fell for face. And Mark Trumbo and Chris Davis and Manny Machado and Jonathan Scope and all the Kevin Gausman, they had all those guys and they just didn't work out together for whatever reason. So yeah, people act like they've been, for 8 years they've been tanking. No, that's not it. It
was 4 years. It was 19, 20, 21, 22. They were like low 80s, right? Low 80s win, like competitive. They were a competitive team in 2022. But so you really think about it, it's 4 years of drafting at the top of the draft, but you nailed it. The reason teams who are tanking, quote unquote, stay at the top of the draft for 7, 8, 9 years is because they don't hit on their draft picks, and you don't have like this stable of guys coming through. So like I am really, like, speaking as a Yankees fan, like I'm not complaining because the Yankees have been competitive my entire life. But as far as like developing prospects, that's one area the Yankees have not really been able to do. Other than Aaron Judge, they have not developed a first round draft talent into a major league caliber player. Hopefully Volpe turns into that, but like it's literally been Aaron Judge, and no other first round draft talent has turned into a good major league player. Now, Aaron Judge is one of the best players in baseball, so great, but it's few and far between.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I mean, you even look back. I mean, DL Hall, who was in that trade for Corbin Burns, him and Grayson Rodriguez were mid like 17 or 18. I think he was what he might have been. But again, that wasn't a tanking year. 2016 they made the playoffs. Like so maybe he was 2018 then. I forget when he was drafted. But again, like some of those guys they picked, Austin Hayes was a 3rd round draft pick by Dan Duquette. So again, it's not like they're not just sitting on their hands. Cedric Mullins was like 18 or 12 or something like that. He was way down there. So again, these guys, it's weird because like you said, it spanned now 2 GMs, like in 2 different completely scouting departments and developmental things. But I don't know what's in the water, but everything, like I said, it's kind of hitting, and it's bizarre to see, and we just don't really see stuff like this in sports. So it's pretty crazy.
And I was looking at the top, your pipeline, the Baltimore pipeline, and just so many white names.
Jackson, they're all the same.
Colton, Kobe, Heston. Everyone's just like this. This white
party.
bro.
It's a frat party at Alabama. It's Kobe and Heston and Jackson and Adley and Gunner. And like I have a tweet where it's like
Gunner, yeah.
It's there's like the video is from like some southern school, but it's like 15 white guys in polos with all like blonde hair. And I know that
meme, yeah.
Posted it out like Jackson and Adley and Heston and this, and Kobe and Cade and like all these guys. And it's like Michael he definitely has a type. I mean,
he's got a type.
They look alike. Jackson looks like
I know.
Heston. They look like Gunner. Adley, they're all the same person. Like it's crazy. It's so funny, but they all just mash the ball too.
They all just can mash.
Colton
Colton.
God, these names, man.
Do you know if Matt Holliday, Jackson's dad, has been hanging around the Orioles, the team at all?
So I know he basically was at every game in Bowie, their AA team. I know a lot of people, like I'd get tagged in tweets on like a random Wednesday night at 9:30, and they're like, "I'm sitting behind Matt Holliday right now in Bowie, Maryland." And it's like, that's
great,
pretty cool. So yeah, I don't know.
His forearms look amazing.
Yeah, but like he had his hoodie up and stuff like that. But it's like, yeah, you know who that is. I don't know again if he's around the team or but I know he's at the games, and him and his brother Ethan, who's going to be the number 1 pick, 2 years or next year, I think, who supposedly could be better than Jackson. So if the Orioles can find a way to tank and get him too, I will.
What's his brother's Ethan?
Ethan.
It's not quite as frat bro-y of a name.
Yeah, it's no Jackson, it's no Cade or Colton, but it's up there. But yeah, again, he's definitely hanging around. I don't know if he's in the cages with them or doing any of that, but he's definitely visible and around. So I'm looking forward to bumping into him at Camden Yards. I'm sure he'll truck stick me. But
I ask because I think one of the more underrated things to the Yankees 2017 success, which was like that first year of Judge, and they went way deeper in the playoffs, was Matt Holliday. He was like the veteran off-season signing that they made. And it's like he had an okay season, but by all accounts, he had like a major impact positively on the clubhouse, just from like a leadership standpoint. So not that he can really have that as the father of a top prospect, but like if Jackson can, be that type of leader because his dad was, like, that's, I know for me, that would get me excited if I was in your shoes.
Absolutely. And I haven't met Jackson. I've talked with him on Twitter and stuff like that, but I've never met him. But everyone I know that knows him, they're like, this guy, like, you would not know he's 20 years old. If you put a blindfold on and you didn't know you were talking to a 20-year-old Jackson Holliday, you'd be like, this guy's been in the big leagues for 10 years and he's seen it all. And again, I mean, he grew up we hear it all the time. He grew up in a clubhouse. He was shagging fly balls, in the play, with stuff. And again, it seems you hear him talk and you're just like, good God, like that's not an answer a 20-year-old gives. Like that's just, he's just those athlete kids, man. They're literally, I'm hearing you. I definitely understand what you're saying with the clubhouse, kind of the effect he can have on it. And I think Matt will hopefully pass some of that down and again, teach him, because again, it seems like he knows what he's doing in front of the media, in front of the clubhouse, in front of the guys, and every time you see him. So I that'll be a carbon copy of his dad when it comes to, that presence in the locker room and, knowing when to get guys hyped up or knowing when to kind of give a rah-rah speech or, maybe you do have to slam a helmet or something like that just to get the guys going. So I think he's definitely going to get that trait passed down to him.
We just know Matt Holliday doesn't let you get away with bullshit as a kid, right? Like, it's like you're dicking around. Matt Holliday's going to fucking tell you.
Yeah. And I mean, you've seen the video, the compound that they live at, like with the you open the kitchen door, you think it's a closet, and it's like, no, there's a pickleball court and a basketball court and a golf simulator. Oh, and a full batting cage that throws balls. You're not skipping out on anything if you're a Holiday. So that was made very clear very early on.
A couple quick things wrapping up. How you mentioned Bautista, the injury, Bradish and Means also dealing with some injuries. What is your level of concern for that going into the season?
Bradish, I'm again, he threw from 90 feet, or no, he threw off a mound yesterday, but it was only throwing fastballs, and they said, oh, he's great and all that. I think he's done. The second he got hurt, and it's funny, I got a DM. I think the Burns happened. Someone said Kyle Bradish got hurt. He's out for the year. He's getting Tommy John. Guy had like 600 followers, and I was like, oh, okay, buddy, thanks. Like, you're not bringing me down from this. Fast forward 2 or 3 weeks later or whatever, and that news came out. Oh, he got hurt. Blah blah blah. And I was like, holy shit, that guy was right. Like, he's But again, it's kind of the same thing with Cole, and I talked about it on Twitter yesterday. It's like, I think I get why they're saying like, oh, we're going to try and do this. We're going to see what he can do. But Bradish, he's sprained UCL. Sprain is a tear. He's a small tear in his UCL. We've seen it before. The PRP injection, rest, try and throw again. And Tommy John, like, it happened to Matt Wieters. It happened to Hunter Harvey. It happened to, John Means. Like, we've bore. So that's why in the back of my mind, I'm like, he's done. I'm not I haven't put 1 ounce of confidence that we'll see Bradish this year. So that's
Yankees fans always use Tanaka as the example who had a partial tear. I think it was 2016 this happened, and he basically was shut down the whole season, rehabbed it, rested, rehabbed, came back at the very end. The Yankees were out of playoff contention. He came back just to make like basically rehab starts. And then he was fine thereafter. But like, otherwise, you're right. Like, a partial tear, all that happens is you try and come back, you have a setback, and then you delay surgery 2 months. And that's what I'm terrified is going to happen with Garrett Cole is instead of getting the surgery, say, in 2 weeks from now, after a couple more doctor visits and everything, he tries to come back and he gets a surgery on June 18th. And it's like, oh, great. Now he's not going to be ready for opening day.
And the Orioles kind of did that with Bautista last year. Bautista was funky because it was like the end of August when it happened. And again, you're like, all right, if he's getting Tommy John, he's already out all next year anyways. So that's why, again, in my mind, that's why they were like, let's see what he can do. Obviously, again, you're 6'9", you're 300 pounds throwing 102 miles an hour. Like, if your ligament is torn a little bit, it's going to tear even more. Like, your body is not meant to do that, to be that. LeBron does not throw 102 miles an hour fastballs for a reason. Like, your body's just not meant to do that. So they tried it with Felix, and again, it was like a pain thing. If he could go, he could go, and it just depends on how long. Like you said, it's going to snap at some point. I would assume. I'm not a doctor. I'm a bozo. I'm not a doctor. But again, I would assume, and like I didn't want people to think I was trolling Yankee fans or anything yesterday. But I said the same thing. I was like, I don't think he'll pitch this year. I think it would be dumb if he tried to rehab. Again, I don't know anything. I think it would be dumb because, like you said, then it's the All-Star break, and you're like, I'll just get to surgery. Now you're out all off season next year, a majority of next season. And then who knows? I mean, we saw it take John Means like 16, 17 months to get back just from Tommy John. So it seems like it's like, oh yeah, just go and fix it and you'll be back. And it's like, no. It's not like an ACL tear in football now. Like, you're not coming back in 8 months or, the Achilles or whatever it is. Guys are coming back in like 7.5 months. So yeah, it's with Bradish again. I'm just, him and Cole are the exact same thing to me. I know they said that Cole doesn't have the tear. I think they're,
well, they said it's they don't think has the tear.
They're playing with the words very carefully. Like, you can,
and that has me worried because the Yankees are notorious for mishandling injuries. He's still getting more opinions. So clearly the evidence in the MRI that the doctors that already looked at him were like, I don't think this, but I recommend someone else look at this too. And then fine, you have 7 doctors look at it and they all conclude the same thing. Like, okay, I'm going to trust that. But clearly it's not cut and dry right now.
No, especially if he's flying to LA to meet with that, like, that well-known, it's like, oh, I'm just going to talk to Dr. James Andrews. And it's like, okay, yeah, we know what happens from there. So yeah, again, it's with Bradish. I would, if he throws if the over-under was 0.5 pitches, I would hammer the under. That's me. Again, Felix is out for the entire year. We'll see him in 2025. So it's like him and Bradish. We'll talk to you then. And then Means wasn't, so Means got hurt. Like he re-aggravated something like a week before the playoffs started. So that's why he wasn't on the playoff roster. And so they delayed his whole offseason throwing program training thing by a month. So that's why, like, he's still not throwing because they just delayed him. Like, I don't think he was ever officially injured because Elias just kept saying he's just behind schedule. And so I know he's been throwing recently, but I don't think he had like an actual injury. I think he was just delayed, letting him rest up a little more. And then, he'll be back in May, beginning of May, mid-May, something like that. So I wasn't worried about Means at all. That one ranked like a 1 on my panic meter of 1 to 10. So especially because it was a back injury. I think it was back or shoulder. So I forget. It wasn't like his elbow, that he had Tommy John on. So that one didn't worry me much at all. But obviously Bradish and Felix are two massive losses to the pitching staff.
Yeah. All right. Final question from me. We're asking everybody we talk to previewing the season. What is your bold prediction for the AL East? It can be Orioles related, could be the division related, player specific. What do you got?
I'll stick Orioles. I think the Orioles will have. I think they will have someone. I don't know who. Either win an MVP, a Cy Young, or the Rookie of the Year. I think they have
one of those
finalists for all of them. But I think somebody wins one of those awards. I don't know who. Like, I think Gunnar is a top 5.
If you had to take a pick for each of those, I mean, Cy Young's probably easy.
Yeah. Well, I think Grayson. Is a again, if you're a betting guy, I think he has some really good odds on that. He's looked very sharp this spring. He's just a monster, and hopefully he's pissed off from the October start. Again, it very well could be Burns. But again, I think Grayson is a low-key sleeper. Rookie of the Year. It's like, obviously Jackson, but it's also like, take your pick. Like, I've thought about, because obviously you get the draft pick if they finish top 3 in Rookie of the Year. The Orioles could have guys finish 1 through 3. Did they get 3 draft picks? I don't know. I got, somebody has to look into that for me because I'm way too lazy to try and do it. But again, I think Jackson has a very good chance. Some of the guys down in Texas are good too. And then for MVP, I think Adley I think he is going to get the media slobbering over him with Burns. I think it's going to be like, oh, look at how good, he handles Burns, and Burns is going to have a great year. So like, look at how good Adley is with him, and he's going to hit 290 with 20 to 25 home runs, and he's going to play Gold Glove defense. And again, his name is Adley, and he's just a grown up, golden retriever that loves to have fun and hug his pitchers. So I think the media is really, really going to eat that up. But again, it could be Gunnar. I think last year I said Gunnar. I think I predicted Gunnar finishes higher than Adley in the MVP last year, and I think it almost happened. If not, it was either close or it happened. But yeah, so I'll go Adley MVP, Jackson Rookie of the Year, and Grayson Cy Young is my hot take prediction, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I can't. That's good. I can't imagine any team has ever won the Triple Crown of awards before.
That would be, I don't think so either. That would be incredible.
That would be ridiculous.
Yeah,
that's a ridiculous occurrence.
I mean, I do it in the show. Let's be real. Again, the new one comes out tonight, so I will be playing it at midnight. But yeah, I do it in the show, and that's the only place it seems to happen. But I couldn't imagine. Unless there was like a 1928, 27.
Yeah, I don't count that. Like that. I don't count that. Actually, no. That if you little history lesson for you. I don't know if you knew this, but back then you couldn't win the MVP more than once. That's why Babe Ruth only won 1 MVP award.
I always like rubbing that in people's face. To like, because didn't Babe Ruth only make like 2 All-Star games or something? It's something.
I'm not sure about that, but yeah, only the 1 MVP award because for whatever reason you couldn't win it more than once back then. Sports writers
have always had their heads so far up their ass. It's something with that. It's like it's probably Bob Ryan or what's his name? He's the guy from Boston. I don't know. He's sick. I don't want to shit on him. I forget his name though.
Oh.
Shaughnessy.
Oh, Shaughnessy.
But no
Shaughnessy's just been alive for 100 years.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I'll do some digging. My cousin's like a big baseball historian, so I'll have to ask him that.
Cool. All right, Eric. Always fun chatting. I'm sure it'll be a fun year. Maybe we'll actually catch up during the year this year instead of waiting until next March.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, if come on down with JJ for Baltimore week. It's JJ looks forward to it less and less every year now because he's like, I think he left last year in the 7th inning.
Oh, really?
I think so.
He couldn't even make it. Well, were the Yankees winning or losing?
No, they lost that game. They lost that game. And then the game 2 years ago, I think the Orioles hit a home run off Cole in like the bottom of the 8th to go up like 3-2, and he was just like, "All right, I'm out." So I think
it was a tough year for the Yankees last year.
But again, it was the 8 years ago, 7th inning last year. So I'm hoping for like 5th inning this year. So we'll show you a good time if you end up coming down for Baltimore week.
All right, man. Appreciate the time.
Awesome. Thanks, man.